Alrighty, hello and good evening, everyone. It is exactly 6 p.m. and I want to welcome you all to Alpha Beta Gamma Omega's Investing One-on-One Workshop. I am very excited to have you all here. As some of you may know, we were chartered on December 5th of 2021. This makes for our second program as a fully fledged chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So we are so excited for the outstanding turnout. We had well over 150 people register. So we know that this is one, a great topic that people want to learn more about, and two, that you're invested in supporting the good work of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So it's this evening, I want to give a special thank you to our guest speaker, Karla Hall, and our vice president will give you her introduction, her bio, but I do want to thank her for when I reached out and said, oh, this is awesome. One of my SOAR friends from Delta Rho Omega had a similar program, and I thought this was such an excellent idea that I wanted to do it as well. And so, Karla, I want to thank you for being so gracious to accept the invitation. And ladies and gentlemen, SOARs and other D9 family, this is a wonderful opportunity to learn more about investing and building wealth. And so I'm excited to pass the microphone, or the pearls as we keep saying, to my wonderful vice president. So Kiki, the floor is yours. Thank you again and good evening.
Thank you, Madam President. Greetings, family, friends, community partners, and members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Happy Black History Month. Y'all know we celebrate all year long. On behalf of Alpha Beta Gamma Omega chapter, thank you all for attending tonight's program. Tonight's program aligns with Alpha Kappa Alpha's international program platform Target 3, which is building your economic legacy. Our programming efforts under this platform focuses on financial planning, asset accumulation, and wealth building, which includes savings and investments, managing debt, and improving credit. For tonight's program, as you all know, we will focus on investing one-on-one. As you heard from Celia a few minutes ago, we actually have over 170 guests registered for tonight's program. Some of you are tuning in right now via Zoom or watching via Facebook Live. And this lets us know that this topic is extremely important. As a community, we must continue to work together to educate and share resources with each other that will help our Black communities thrive, as well as create generational wealth. Many of us cannot simply rely on the paycheck we receive from our 9-to-5 jobs or even our side hustles. Therefore, it is imperative that we explore wealth building opportunities that will help improve the quality of life, not only for ourselves, but for our future generations. I'm so excited that we have the Karla Hall with us tonight, who will get us started with investing one-on-one. Change is constant. With a career spanning over 20 plus years in financial services and risk management, Karla Hall knows that change and how effectively you manage that change is key to success. She has held senior roles at several of Wall Street's top investment banks, including her current role. Karla is the Chief Risk Officer for the Capital Market Solutions Division in FIS Global, a Fortune 500 global leader technology for financial service organizations. In her role, Karla is responsible for enterprise risk management, including strategy and budget oversight for the division, which grosses $1 billion in annual revenue. In addition to her professional achievements, Karla is committed to giving back. She is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, proudly serving in my former chapter, Beta Alpha Omega, the Mother Pearl chapter located in Newark, New Jersey. Karla also serves as the chair of the Internal Investment Committee of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She's an executive producer for the FIS Capital Markets Women's Network and has held leadership volunteer positions with the New York Junior League and the New York Urban League Young Professionals. She was also an inaugural member of the advisory board for St. John's University Center for Excellence in Enterprise Risk Management, and she remains involved in various professional banking and risk management organizations, including Women's Bond Club. Karla earned a BS in Finance from St. John's University in New York, as well as an MBA in International Business from St. John's University in Rome, Italy campus. Without further ado, I would like to present to some and introduce to others our sister girl, our friend, who's always exemplifying excellence and leading on a high note, serving nothing but Black excellence, Karla Hall.
Thank you. And thank you for such an amazing introduction. I'm like, I want to know who she is. You made it sound so much better than it is. But, you know, yes, when Celia reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in partnering with Alpha Beta Gamma Omega to do this workshop, I couldn't click yes fast enough because I love talking about building wealth. It's something I'm really passionate about. I'll talk a little bit later about how I became the investment chair for the sorority. But one of the things I was really passionate about is as the sorority's portfolio continued to grow, how can we get involved in some of the programs and spread this information to our members, to the community, and we can all build wealth together, because who doesn't want to build wealth, right? So let me share my screen because I do have a couple slides prepared. And we'll leave tons of time for Q&A at the end. So please, I think I'm going to cover the majority of the questions that were sent in advance, but we'll leave tons of time at the end to go through any questions you may have. So let's just jump right in. Before we get into the content, quick disclaimer that the information I'm sharing is anecdotal and for information only. I might talk a little bit about the stocks I have. I might talk a little bit about the stocks that my family or friends that we've talked about. I might talk about some products or some apps I use. It's for information only. Please consult the advice of a licensed financial professional that can look at all of your information, your circumstances, how much money you have in the bank, how much money you make, and can build a customized program for you that helps minimize your risk. Because as everyone knows, investing in anything is risk. And we want to make sure that you're protected. So again, this is all just for informational purposes. Let's talk about it. Let's share information. I know a lot about investing. I've worked on Wall Street for 20 years. I have tons of conversations because that's how you learn. So let's make this a good conversation that we all walk away maybe learning a thing or two. So what we'll talk about today, I won't talk about myself in much detail because Sor Kiki did such a phenomenal job introducing me. We'll talk about how you can prep your bag, because it's important that your bag is adequately prepped before you start building your bag. You got to make sure your house is in order. A house always has to have a good foundation. Let's make sure you have a good foundation. So as Kiki mentioned, you know, I have an MBA in international business, been a member of a ton of different either finance or risk-related organizations, including volunteer, because that's really how you grow. As you can see on the right side, I climbed the corporate ladder at a number of investment banks that are global: Morgan Stanley, HSBC, Oppenheimer. So that's really where I started getting my teeth wet, started asking these questions, started getting the answers to questions, and how I got here today. One of the other things that I'm really proud about is that I do have a soccer and snowboarding 5-year-old, and she's a girl, by the way. And we also have a standard poodle that's a little under 2 years old that drives me crazy. So there's always tons of action going on in this house. So preparation today is what's going to lead to success tomorrow. Nobody wakes up wealthy unless, you know, they just have generational wealth. But those entrepreneurs, those people that started it and really had those rags to riches stories, they prepared for it. Anybody who tells you otherwise is not telling you the truth. There's no way to build wealth without preparing both mentally and financially for how you can begin that journey. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between rich and wealth. So rich is having enough money to pay your bills. It's having enough money to maybe buy a nice car, you know, treat yourself occasionally. But this is all money that you've earned. You go to work and you get a paycheck. Maybe you can save a little, but it's all based on you showing up to work. Wealth is having enough money to meet your needs, but you don't have to work if you don't want to. This is money that's making money when you're asleep, making money when you're on vacation, making money when you're at your day job. That's really the true definition of wealth. And one thing I want to point out, especially as you are either beginning this journey or continuing this journey, wealth means different things to different people. So it's important as you go through this journey is that you don't look at what you see on Instagram or on TV or celebrities or Bill Gates and think that's your goal. Wealth might be having a house that's fully paid for, being able to send your kids to college.
There you go.
I think you guys can hear me now. But wealth might mean paying off your house, being able to retire comfortably. So I think it's important to not get distracted or it's important not to get distracted by or fall into the pitfalls of what you see other people have and not be able to think about, sorry about that, and not think about what's really appropriate for your needs. So now let's talk a little bit before we can talk about wealth. It's really important to talk about, again, the bag prep. You got to have your house in order. And credit, how you manage money is a key relationship that you have to get a handle on before you can build wealth. Because how can you manage a portfolio? How can you be a millionaire if you can't manage being a thousandaire or a 100,000aire? And credit is a key part, and your debt is a key part of your relationship with money. What I'm showing on screen is probably not new to everyone, but on the lower right is the ranges for your credit score. As you can see, the bottom where it's intense pink, those are probably where you're not having a great relationship with money. If you're green, it means that you've had a good relationship with your money and you're managing your money wisely. If you happen to be in that lower spectrum, don't fret, because the great thing about credit scores is that it revolves for 7 years. So mistakes you might have made 6, 7 years ago, if you start to begin those good practices and those healthy practices, which I'll talk about in about 10 seconds, you can see yourself begin to progress from that poor to fair to that almost excellent, because excellent is attainable. Some of the things that are your credit score are comprised of, and you can see the biggest things are your payment history. Are you paying your bills on time? That is the number one factor that drives your credit score. Sorry, that's the number one factor that drives your credit score, your payment history. So it's really important that you pay your bills on time. Even if you run into a rut, whether it's something financial and maybe you got laid off, or maybe you have an unexpected bill, pay the minimum. Call the creditor and say, hey, I'm having a bad month. Can I pay, this toward it? Anything you can do which demonstrates you're paying your bills on time is going to help keep your credit score improving. What you don't want to do is get those phone calls and ignore them. And by the way, I'm ignoring my sister, not a credit card. Amounts owed. Creditors want to see that you are managing your money well, that you're not making $50,000 and owe $50,000. So it's really important that you have a healthy ratio of how much money you're making and how much money you ultimately owe. Rounding out that other 35%, as you can see, are the types of credit. So mixture of student loans and car loans, not just credit cards. How many times you're getting your credit score run. And lastly, your credit history. And by that is the length of it. Do you have new credit? Because they want to see that you have a history of being able to manage your money wisely. So me being a risk officer, I would be remiss to not throw in a little bit around identity fraud. What's on the screen are the three main credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. I'm going to give a little bit of homework during this workshop. So please, I hope you have pens and paper ready. So the first homework is, or let me do a question. How many people check their credit scores at least once a year? Can you throw your hands up? I see 2 hands raised. I'm hoping that's because people can't find the button. Okay, 12, 13, 14, 21, 23, 25. Okay, I see the hands raising. It's so important. I can't stress enough how important it is to check your credit scores at least once a year. I'm probably a little anal. I check mine once a month. But I work in risk. I'm probably a little jaded. There's 2 reasons why you should check your credit scores as often as possible. One is You get to see the results of all the work you're doing. You're managing your credit. You're paying your bills on time. You have a diversified types of debt. You're, keeping credit cards open for over 7 years. You want to see that number go up. Who doesn't get gratification from seeing that number go up? The other reason it's probably a little bit, in my opinion, more important is identity fraud is on the rise. It's never gone down. And those hackers are, I see bi-monthly, love it. Those hackers are getting more sophisticated, and they're using your social security number to make social security claims. They're using it to buy cars in your name. They're using it to get credit cards in your name. When you check your credit score, the neat thing about it is it shows you all the accounts that are open using your social security number. So it's a good habit to see what accounts are there and make sure you quickly identify anything that shouldn't be there. Another tip is that if you have children, check them as well, because they're also using children, and nobody ever thinks to check your child's social security number because they don't have any debt. They can't even drive maybe, but check your children as well. And there's ways you can set it up. I see a question in the chat. I'm gonna try to get through this deck, probably about another 20 minutes of me talking. And then I promise we're gonna get to all the questions at the end, but I do see them and we're not gonna ignore them. So there's a ton of apps that you can use. Your bank, if you have an app, a lot of them now have a different tab on the app where they're showing you your credit score. I personally use Credit Karma. I don't work for them. I'm not plugging them, but I've used them for at least 5 years, probably a lot more. And it's an easy app. It's password protected. And it's just a way for me, if I'm standing in line, if I'm at the gas station getting gas pumped, because I live in Jersey, I don't pump my own gas. So if I'm getting gas in my car, I'll just open up the app and quickly skim down. Okay, mortgage, yep, I know that. Okay, student loan, yeah, I still have that. That credit card, what did I buy last month? So just a quick way to make sure everything looks like it's supposed to. So please incorporate that into your monthly process, at least quarterly, just so you know what's going on. So now let's talk about building your bag. What I want to talk about, and this is probably my favorite part of these workshops, is the financial plan. I have a girlfriend that loves making vision boards, and every year, as part of her New Year's preparation, she has a vision board party. I hate it. I hate vision boards because as much as I'm a visual person, I'm a different kind of visual person. So having pictures up there that represent what I want to accomplish, it drives me crazy not attaching a financial number to it and not making a plan to help me accomplish it. So I'm a big fan of the financial plan, which I'm going to talk about, because I think this is an important part of your wealth journey. It helps you document your goals, but it forces you to add a number to it. It's how you can attain those goals. It requires honesty to create that long-term vision, and really being honest with yourself about the type of future you want. It should be reasonable and realistic, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be aspirational. And it should include all facets of your life. So what do I mean by all facets of your life? You have children, you have parents, you may want to go back to school, you may have a family member that you help take care of. You may work in an industry where you have to get advanced degrees, or you may plan on relocating. So all facets of your life mean exactly that. So think of your financial plan as the roadmap of your life with numbers attached. So you can see this road, and I love this image because it really does represent kind of the road of our life. It's a journey. And you want to make sure that you're financially prepared for that journey and you don't get surprises. So thinking of your career, how much do you expect to make in your current career in 5 years? One of the really nice things I like about this roadmap is that it's not just a plan, but then it also forces you to think about the other steps to get there. So for example, retirement. I think about retirement. I have a 5-year-old. So in 13 years, I'm going to be broke. I still have student loans. I have older parents. So I'm also the oldest. I have 2 younger siblings. So I think about, if something happens to them, and I see the breach house, I'm about to put that on my roadmap. But those are the types of things that I have on my roadmap. And then what I think about is, okay, how do I prepare for retirement? Am I maxing out my 401k? Am I also investing? My family, okay, do we have adequate life insurance? Do I have life insurance because I have a dependent? Do I have enough money set aside for her education? And then I think, and the way I like how this fits together is then I map it back to my career. Because if I think about, okay, in 13 years, Louisa, my daughter, may go to Harvard. That might cost me, I don't know, $250,000 a year. How much money do I need to be making to be able to fund that kind of education? So what steps do I need to make in my career to ascend to be able to attain that goal? So think about, as you set out your goals and your financial roadmap, think about what you need to do, and then you can start, it fits into other parts of your life. So now, in addition to having this financial roadmap, what should come out of it naturally is now your career education roadmap. How do you put yourself financially in a position to earn enough money to be able to fund these goals? And how does investing and building wealth fit into these goals? So this is one of the key initial steps, I think, really thinking about the life you want to have, because some people go into, I want to be rich. Why do you want to be rich? If you don't have an end state, money never should be an end state. What should be an end state is the quality of life and the type of life you want to live and being able to financially afford it. So I highly recommend creating this financial plan and really thinking about the life you want and putting it on paper, because that creates accountability. I hear people talk all the time about, I'm going to do this next year, I'm going to do that next year. When you put it on paper, it holds you accountable. Doesn't mean that life doesn't happen and you decide that you want to do something else, but having it in paper, I just believe in when you put something in paper, that's almost claiming it and beginning to put it in action. So now let's talk about your budget and creating a budget. I approach budgets a little bit differently than most people, in that most people say, get a sheet of paper and look at your expenses and create a budget. I also don't believe in being miserable, so I approach a budget a little bit differently. So my approach to a budget just creates a budget that I think is livable, it's sustainable, it's a way to keep some semblance of happy and not feel like you're suffering, and also helps you meet those goals. Of course, if you're in an extreme situation, you might have to take some extreme action, but a good way to just get your feet wet in the budget is this approach. So the first way is to just note your net income. How much money do you bring in a year after taxes, after paying your health benefits, after your 401k, after everything else? How much money do you take home? The second thing I like to do is track spending for 1 to 2 months. And the reason why is because you get to see what you spend money on, what you enjoy, what brings you pleasure. And it's great to have insight into that. The third piece is setting your goals based on that roadmap that we just talked about. So if your goals are to buy a new house or to save for college, setting your goals and how much money do you want to put aside for that, whether it's on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. It also is setting aside money or beginning to invest. How much money are you going to put toward your investment accounts? And then make a plan. One of the great things about step 2 in tracking your spending is as you make a plan, you can really look in the mirror and say, wow, I spend a lot of money on shoes, or I spend a lot of money on AKA paraphernalia, or I spend a lot of money on coffee. It puts it right down there in front of you, how much money you put out the door. And for some people, it's very eye-opening. You might not realize how often you eat out, how often you open up that Grubhub app and not feel like cooking, and it adds up. So when you track it, then you could add it up and even put it in buckets. How much do you spend on social? How much do you spend on nails? How much do you spend on, self-care, which is really important, but some of us might, have some areas that we can pull back on. So you can make a plan based on tracking your spending. The great thing about making a plan is that sometimes you don't have to go cold turkey. I had a really bad Starbucks addiction. It was my guilty pleasure, especially working from home, that getting in the car and driving to the Starbucks drive-through about 15 minutes away was my guilty pleasure. It was kind of my escape, but it adds up. So when I redid my budget for this year, based on the goals I have, I reconsidered how much money I spend on Starbucks, and now I go once a week. It's my Friday guilty pleasure to reward myself for a great week. And it's something like I look forward to. And the $20 that I'm saving with not Starbucks, I throw it into my personal trading account. So there's different ways you can cut back on things that you can put once you have this goal, you see how much you're spending and what you're spending on money on. Another friend, when we went through this exercise, she gets her hair done every week, about $50 a pop. And she called it her self-care. Okay, but when we went through her plan and then looked at her budget, realized, well, maybe if you do it every 2 weeks, that's $100 that you're keeping in your pocket. She just bought a new house. She needed to furnish that house. So that extra $100 a month was now money that she could go toward buying a new sofa and buying a new bed and buying a new dining room table, at least until she could get to where she wanted to be. And once you start doing it, it takes 40 days to build a habit. So after a month, she was like, I don't even know what to do with myself on the Saturdays that I'm not sitting in the salon for 4 hours. So look at that. As always, with everything else, life happens, and we should extend ourselves grace in that we have to adapt, we have to adjust. That's the great thing about being human, is that we have the ability to adapt and pivot. And the great thing about being such phenomenal people is that we adapt to everything around us. So if you make a budget, life happens, you adjust. And that's perfectly fine to adjust it. Just because you've set a goal and you put something on paper, it doesn't mean that you won't have the flexibility to just make some adjustments as needed. It's life. It's hard enough without us being so hard on ourselves. And you keep checking in. What good is a budget if it sits there, you do all this work, and then it just sits there and you never open the file again? So check it all the time. Give yourself credit when you accomplish goals. And if you don't meet a goal, then adjust yourself for next month and do it that way. So an example might be, I have a certain amount allocated in my budget for shopping. During the holiday season, I probably went a little bit overboard because there were tons of sales. So the way I adapted my budget to my personal Christmas gifts is that I'm not buying anything. I'm on a no buy until April. And that's when my budget comprehensively will line up, that the money I spent in advance in December, my budget starts to get back in the green. Because whatever I allocated for the spend on shopping in January and February and March, I spent in December. So there's different ways you can finesse your budget and still stay on track long-term. So now let's talk about the difference between savings and investing. And a great way to remember it is how you use the terminology. I'm saving for a car. I'm saving for a house. These are usually short-term, maybe small amounts. The money is easily accessible because it's in your savings account in the bank and it earns interest. Because you're not investing, it's less risky, but you also are earning interest, which is a smaller return on your money. Investing, when we think about investing, I'm investing in my future. I'm investing in myself. So these are things that have longer term benefits. Because you are investing and it involves risk, it's going to be harder to access. And as a result, you earn returns on it. So that's a key way to understand the difference. You want to make sure you have a good combination of both. So savings is money that you can access immediately. So a general rule of thumb is you want to make sure you have savings to cover, I would say in this industry, in this market, 6 months of expenses. For different people, that might mean different things. You might be more comfortable with a 3-month cushion, but you want to make sure you have savings and that rainy day fund that you almost hear about before you begin the investing journey. Because investing, especially if you're starting on this journey, it's money you want to invest money that you cannot afford to lose. And by that, I mean, it's risky. You might lose it all. I talked about this in the beginning. So you don't want to invest money that you need to pay your bills. That's an absolute no-no. And I strongly encourage no one to ever pursue that. Even if you think you're going to get this quick witch fund, people do cryptocurrency, people buy penny stocks. They're thinking, oh, I saw this on Instagram. They made all this money. I can do it. Those stories usually aren't true, and that's not the norm. So investing is really money for long-term, because the markets, as you can see, are very volatile and they're up and down. So it's long-term for you to be able to ride out those curves. And it's also money especially when you're starting out, that if you lose it, like I said, I use my Starbucks money, I use my, extra money that I would have thrown away anyway. It's money that if I lost it, it still would hurt, but it still wouldn't drastically impact my day-to-day. So I'm going to talk about 4 of the major types of investment products. We're just going to dip our toe into this conversation and make sure we walk away with a good understanding. So the certificates of deposit are one of the lowest risk types of investments. You can get these directly from your bank, walk right into the branch and say, hey, I'm interested in a CD, as it's affectionately known. A CD is basically a loan to a bank for a specified amount of time at a specified interest rate, and it's a specified amount of money. What this means is you're locked. So you'll sign some documents locking yourself into this loan to the bank. There are some penalties if you decide to get your money back earlier or you need it earlier. But the thing about CDs that make it a nice, easy way to get your toes wet is that you can go right back to your bank with your paperwork if you do need to get your money back, and it all happens within your branch. The next 3 products involve entering the market if you do need to get your money back. So the next bucket, corporate bonds and Treasury securities. This is another type of debt, except based on it, you're either a large company's own you money or the US government is owing you money. So, and it's the same type of a setup as a CD. You're going to loan one of those entities a specified amount of money, which is called the principal. They're going to pay you back interest over that time, and it's going to be for a specified amount of time. So it's like your car loan where you have to pay it back, except with these, you're going to get that lump sum at the end of the term. What makes this a little more risky and a little more of a sophisticated type of investment is if for any reason you need to get your money back, you can't go to the US government. You can't call up President Biden and say, hey, I'd like my $1,000 back. What you're going to have to do is sell that product back into the market and someone will buy it from you. It's a little more complicated than I'm simplifying it for the purpose of this workshop, but it's just not as simple as just saying, hey, I want my money back. It's more of selling it back. The next type of product are mutual funds. And these are pools of money. So what you buy is a share in the mutual funds, and that investment manager will take all of that money. So I'm invested, Kiki's invested, Celia's invested, Alicia, I'm throwing out names. Everybody throws in money in this pool. And then that investment manager will take that money and buy different types of securities, whether it's stocks and bonds or a combination, to create that diversification that we always hear about. So you don't own the underlying products, you own a share in that mutual fund. Similar to corporate bonds and Treasury securities, if you do need your money back, you're going to have to sell your share of the mutual fund back to the market and hope somebody will buy it back. Stocks are the last type of product that I am going to talk about. And this is probably the one that is the most risky. Stocks are equity. You own a piece of the company. The reason why it's one of the highest risks is the stock price is based on a number of factors. The most important one is how people perceive the company is doing. So it could be the president steps down, the president of the company steps down. It could be a scandal with the president. It could be things that are beyond that company's control, like they can't get the chips from China. But if the market, and the market is really analysts and professional investors, if they don't think a company is strong, they're not going to want any parts of it. They're going to sell that company, and that's what drives the price down. So the stock market really revolves around supply and demand. If everybody wants a piece of it, let's think about Peloton at the height of the quarantine, when everybody just wanted to work out at home, everybody wanted a Peloton, and Peloton's price went through the roof because of the demands for that type of product, that type of innovation, to be able to capitalize on people still wanting to be healthy, but not being able to go to the gym. I don't know if anybody's been checking the markets, but Peloton is now down to 30 because there's questions about, as things are opening up, do people really still want a bike in their house? So that's how the stock markets work. That's how the prices work. And that's why it is extremely risky and so volatile, because there's so many factors that can sway a price and sway the demands. So now let's talk about how you can secure the bag today. There we go. The first one, and this is the second piece of homework, is your retirement accounts. If you are in a situation where your company does have retirement accounts, they probably match. It's important that you are using your 401ks if you are able to do so, because if your company's match, that is money on the table that you are leaving. Usually they match up to a certain amount, but it's 1-to-1. So if you invest $1 in your retirement, they're going to invest $1. So that's money that you are leaving on the table. The great thing is, if you start this habit, like I talked about earlier, you don't even miss it because it comes out pre-tax. So once you go through a couple months of having them take out money towards your retirement account, you don't even miss it because it's never hit your checking account. It's different when you get paid and then you have to pay bills and move money to savings and move something to this. You might get there might be months when you're like, you know what, I'm not going to put it in my savings. I'm going to do this. With 401ks and other types of retirement accounts that come out pre-tax, you don't get the choice. You don't get the option. But the good thing is that means that you'll consistently do it every month and be able to build wealth in that way. The other way you can start securing the bag today is online investing. And like I talked about before you invest, it's really important that you take an assessment of your personal situation, get professional financial advice, and never invest money that you cannot afford to lose. I started my personal investing account with the money I saved from not buying lunch every day, not getting my nails done spreading out getting my nails done, cutting down my Starbucks addiction. But it was basically money that I was spending on other things that I moved to my investment account and considered my play money. Now that I'm a lot better at it, I do take it a lot more seriously. I feel more comfortable putting more money in it, but that's how I started. It was my play money that I would have spent anyway on something trivial that I diverted to this. A common question I get asked is, what do I start investing in? I don't know what to invest. I don't know how to read a balance sheet. It's so confusing. My mom was the same way. She was like, investing, that's how people lose all their money. And we were talking about how does she start investing? She had no idea what company to start, and she was terrified about it. And then we started looking around the house, and my mom loves Sears. If Sears sells it, my mom has bought it. So refrigerators, TVs, our school uniforms, the lawnmower, everything came from Sears because she loved their warranty. Guess what her first stock was? I'm going to see who puts it in the chat. What was my mom's first stock? Sears, exactly, because that was a company that she trusted to spend her money. She would buy a TV. It didn't matter if it was cheaper somewhere else. Sears has good stuff. They have good warranties. So that's where, if you're struggling with where to start investing where you spend your money. If you always drive BMWs, buy some BMW stock. If you are at Starbucks, and I saw some of you admitting it in the chat, if you are at Starbucks all the time, that is the highlight of your day. You're standing in line, doing your Starbucks stands. You should own some Starbucks stock. If you have a Peloton, own Peloton. If you work for a large company, you should own that stock, because every day you log in and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into making that company money, you should own that stock. Amazon, if some of you go through your Amazon carts and don't even remember why you put that in your Amazon cart, you should own Amazon stock. So as you start this investing journey, look at where you already probably have a short list of companies that you trust and that you value and that you think make good products. Why not be an owner and earn money off of how well they're doing? Target, my sister has Target stock because every Saturday at 9 a.m., I call her, she's at Target. Don't ask me what she's buying, but she's at Target. So she owns Target stock. My daughter owns Disney stock because, of course, Disney is her favorite place in the world. And the other point that I want to add is that as you start this journey and you continue on this journey building wealth, bring your children along, bring your family members along. What we don't do as people is talk about money. Sometimes it feels very taboo. And I personally I'm lucky my dad was an accountant, so we always talked about money way too much in my house. And we recreate those same conversations with my daughter. So she owns Disney stock and she will take my phone and she knows how to look up the stock on the app. And she'll say, oh, mommy, I'm richer today because Disney is red. Oh, mommy, Disney's not doing very well. It's red. And she'll be like, it might be that new cartoon they did. I don't think people liked it. So it's really funny how she'll start, and you want to have those conversations early. Buy them a Disney stock. You can print it out. If your kids love Nike, get them Nike stock. Get them thinking about the conversations and how they build wealth. And even if your kids like Nike, an example could be, you buy them the stock, they look at the prices. When Nike comes out with new sneakers, you'll probably see a correlation between the stock price going up and they put out new sneakers. So that's how you get them to start building a healthy relationship with money, understanding how the markets work and understanding how things are all commingled. So I think that is all of my prepared materials for today, because I wanted to make sure there was enough time for questions. On the screen, I have my contact information. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I post a bunch of tips all day because all I do is kind of Google this stuff and read articles. I also post a ton of career tips because Wall Street is as fun as you can imagine it. Costco is Bay. I see it. So definitely follow me, definitely reach out to me if we don't get to your questions or you come up with questions, and let's jump into Q&A.
Wow, that was amazing. That was jam-packed. Thank you, Karla, for that amazing presentation. It was a lot of information, and I hope that you all have your pen and paper handy so that you can take notes. My phone is hopping right now. The Zoom room is packed. We have over 200 people. Well, right now we have 100. We filled to capacity in the Zoom room. I made a note earlier. I'm sorry for many of our family and friends who could not get into the Zoom room. If someone's texting you on the side, send them a message. We are streaming live on Facebook. This is a hot button topic because with everything that's going on right now, the uncertainty with the pandemic, just having that job security that folks once believed that they had is no longer there. So this is definitely a good topic. And you shared so many different nuggets. I'm going to open up the floor. I know we have a few folks that are tuning in on Facebook, a lot of folks tuning in now on Facebook Live. So I'm going to get some questions from Facebook Live first, and then I'll jump back over to our Zoom room to get questions from the audience that's here right now. So let me see what questions I got right now. Let me look. Kim, are you around?
I am around, and we don't actually see any questions in the Facebook comments at this time, but we have several popping up in the Zoom chat if we want to go ahead and take those first.
All right, absolutely. So if you have a question that you want to ask Karla, or you need some clarification, could you raise your hand and we will bring you up on our virtual stage so that you can ask your question? I know that we had a lot. It was a lot going on in the chat box. If you are,
the chat was where it was popping.
It was. Okay, I see.
Dawn Kennedy has a question.
Who?
Hi, Dawn Kennedy.
Oh, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I wanted to know, Carly, this information was phenomenal, by the way, and it just helps me to know that I'm on track with my thinking. And I want to know how you feel about your perspective on the apps Acorn, Stash, Robinhood. Are those good places to start? And I know you can buy a piece of a stock, a portion of it. How do you feel about those apps? Or what advice would you give?
So to be honest, I'm ambivalent about them. I think it's a personal preference. I personally, so this is Karla, I like to own things. So I would rather, like Amazon, I forget, it's probably about 2,500 now. So I would rather set aside 500 every month until I accumulate the 2,500 and click buy, even if it's just one stock, than buy a portion of a stock. Because the thing is, if you move your account from Robinhood or those apps where you can buy partial shares and you haven't fully purchased the share, they're going to sell the portions you own and give you the money. Whereas the other apps, if you own them, you can move the stocks you own to another brokerage. Does that make sense? So that's just a personal preference of mine. I think you need to do what's comfortable for you. But I just personally would rather like save it on my end, because you can put the money in, different online apps that only allow you to buy a full share. You can just have it sitting there until you have enough, versus the fractional shares, which is what, apps like Acorn and Robinhood do. Again, if you leave and you haven't bought the full share, they're going to sell that piece and then you just get the money back.
All right, thank you. So we also have a question from Miss Moore. I'm gonna add her to the spotlight. And I see that Miss Samara Scott had that same question that Dawn had about which platforms, which one was the best platforms. And so you kind of answered that. I hope that answers your question, Samara.
Yeah. So I can just add one more thing about the apps before we jump to the next question.
Okay.
It's really a personal preference. All of the online apps, once one started not charging fees anymore, they've all moved to that model. Whereas a couple years ago, you kind of have to shop around to see who charged, $1 or $2. They all have moved to virtually no fees. So it's really kind of the layout of the app, which is more, I guess, esoterically pleasing to you on how you navigate the app. Is probably the best advice I'd give if you're trying to dabble into online trading and you don't know whether it's an E-Trade or a Charles Schwab or which app do you like better?
All right, thank you so much for that response, Karla. We have Miss Moore. Hello, good evening.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Tanea Moore. Thank you for the amazing information. My question is around whether or not CreditWise is a good tool to use. I know you discussed Credit Karma and Experian, but I've been using CreditWise just because I see it every day when I log into my Capital One app. But do you think it's a good tool? And also, what, in your opinion, are the best 3 tools? I know you said you use Credit Karma, but are there other ones that you 100% recommend?
So I use CreditWise as well because I do have a Capital One account. So I use CreditWise as well. They're good. I don't think there's one that's better than the other, to be honest. I think as long as you are in the process of looking at them, the main difference will be not all of them have the 3 credit bureaus. So some might only have TransUnion, one might only have Equifax. So if you have a couple, then that should allow you to get the full picture, as well as your FICO score, which I didn't talk about, but your FICO score is really what creditors look at. It's slightly different from those scores, but it's generally the same. It's just a kind of a combination of them, and they calculate it a little bit differently. I think whatever app you're using, you're on the right track, because the key thing is you want to see what accounts are there, and you also want to track your progress. Like sometimes looking at the apps and saying, well, man, my credit, my student loans, I really want to knock that out. So then you can see how much you owe at that point in time, and you can track your progress around it. And for me, I just find that gratifying to go into the app every day and see those balances decreasing, if that's a goal I set. So I think CreditWise is a great one. I use it myself. Thanks for reminding me. So when I go in the Capital One app, I will click on that tab and see what it says. And then I also do bank with Chase, and they do show, I'm trying to remember which one it is, but they do show one of my credit scores as well on that. So every time I log in, I take a peek at what they're saying.
Thank you so much. That was such a great question. I see we have Amanda Payton. I see a lot of, listen, we're trying to get to as many questions as we possibly can. I see that Amanda Payton had a question. Amanda, I don't think that you have your camera on, but can we take her off on mute so that she
She's
can answer?
unmuted at this time.
Okay, Amanda.
My camera is not on because I'm not camera ready. It's
Okay, it's all right.
You're always camera ready.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here in Italy.
Wow.
Yeah, so my question is, when you have mutual funds, are you able to sell your mutual funds in order to go into the stock market and buy when you have a brokerage account? Is that something that you're able to do? Or do you have to keep those things separate, like mutual funds and going into mutual funds and going into the stock market where you're actually buying stock?
So you can do both. They're both investment vehicles. So equities is owning the stock directly. A mutual fund is a good way. A lot of people prefer it, as well as myself, because they do the diversification for you. So for example, there's no way, I don't have the kind of money to be able to buy all the companies I want to buy and have that diversification. A mutual fund is a way to get that very easily. So it's almost like getting a personal shopper, right? You're not going to know everything in the store and what fits you best. So you get a personal shopper and they give you advice. A mutual fund, they're doing all the work. They're looking at the market. They're seeing what they think is going to be the hot stocks, what's going to bring the highest return, and they put that portfolio together. So you can actually do both. A mutual fund is a safe way to start. And then I think buying equities, using an online investing account, because I think the online investing or personal investing is how you really can get synced into the market. When you have a mutual fund, you can just buy it and just kind of ignore it and leave it there. When you buy a stock, you're vested in it. You can check it in your app. You can see what's going on. You look at the price, you see the ups and downs. And I'm a huge advocate of not just participating in the market, but understanding how the markets work. And I find when you own the stocks and you can see how it moves with different things that are going on, whether it's inflation or the Fed raising rates or us potentially going to war, you see how the world and all the pieces fit together. So I guess the short answer to your question is you can do both. And I'm envious because I do miss my time in Italy. It was probably one of the best years of my life.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that response. And thank you for tuning in. I know it's 4 o'clock your time in Italy. We appreciate it. I see that we have up next, we have Alicia. Oh, there we go. Alicia. I hope I said that correctly. Hi, good evening.
Hi. Good evening. So I had a question, and I saw a few other questions in the chat about saving for our children's education. And so that's the Maryland or the state plans versus buying big bonds to mature over time to prepare for their college. What would you recommend?
So I'm not going to give you a recommendation because I try not to give investment advice. I think it's good to sit down with so one of the things I strongly encourage people to do is go to your bank branch and tell them you want to talk to them about your future. Because if you invest there, almost all the banks now have wealth arms. And if you are a customer, they will provide that service to you either free at a very low cost. And they can give you some very specific advice because without knowing the rates, it's hard for me to say that a bond is going to be better than a 529. My daughter has both. She's the only grandchild, so my parents set up a trust for her. I also set up a 529 with my ex-husband for her. The reason why I love the 529s is, and you can either do all of it, do just that, or do it with other things. But the great thing about a 529 is every Christmas and every year for her birthday, I get texts and emails. What should we get Louisa for her birthday? Here's what you could do. Invest in her future. With a 529, you can send your village that link and they can directly put money into that 529. And you can't touch it. it's designated for their education, and a common misconception is that it's only for college. You can use it for trade school and other types of education. So you're not just locked into going to a traditional university. There are other ways they can use that 529 money. But the great thing is that, you know, we set it up when she was born. So her baptism gift was her baptism. We include that in the invitation, and every birthday we include that in the invite to her birthday. So that's why I like 529s as part of your child's college plan, because it's really easy to get your village to just do it, and it helps keep clutter out of your house because we don't have 1,000 Barbie dolls.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. So
You're
next
welcome. Great
up-
question.
Yes, so we got a lot of good questions. So next up, we have Miss James. Good evening. Thank you for your patience. What's your question? Let me ask you to
Well, you
unmute.
think you're on mute.
All right, there you go.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, thank you for all the wealth of information. So my question is, how does all of these stocks and bonds, like I understand like just the clip and the snippet of what you were explaining to us, but then how does that translate into like income, and how I'm very confused on that part.
She just want to know how she can collect her money.
Yes.
So I'll give you a very simple. So, I mean, there's different ways to accumulate wealth through the stock market, but I'll give you a very like simple way that that you can just like a simple way. Like I mentioned that I have an online trading account and it's my play account. One of the easiest ways to see kind of the return on it is when you buy something at a certain price and then the price goes up. And I talked a little bit about, supply and demand. So now everything is low. There's a lot of volatility. Everything is what we consider cheap because it's lower than the price it typically trades at. So I talked about Peloton and how I bought Peloton. And I don't know if I'm right, but I think Peloton going from $150 a share a year ago down to about $30 a share now. As many people as I know that are like Peloton addicts, I don't think the price is going to stay that low. I don't think Peloton is going to go out of business. Some people love their bikes. It's a whole lifestyle. They follow the instructors on Instagram. It's like a thing. So I expect that Peloton will go back up. So I bought it at 30. If it goes back up to 50, let's just say it goes up to 50, being very conservative, that's $20 more that stock is worth. So if I sell it at 50, I only paid $30 for it. So that's $20 that extra that I had that I didn't have. So that's like a very simple, dirty way of seeing, or a very easy way of kind of understanding why people invest with the expectation of the price going up. Another way to look at it is there are stocks that just pay dividends. So you could own the stock, even if the price doesn't move, they pay dividends. As they make money and they have profits, they'll pay their investors. It might be nominal, 25 cents, 50 cents. You leave it in there, it adds up. So you put out the initial. So there's different ways, there's kind of an infinite amount of ways, but I think the number one way you can make money off the stock market is by buying something, holding it for a while and letting the price increase. And then you can just keep holding it until you're ready to sell it and hope you're selling it for more money than what you paid for it. So it's kind of like similar to a house. You buy a house or you buy a condo. When you sell it, you want to sell it for more money. Same type of thought process for stocks.
Okay.
So I hope that helped in kind of demystifying it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Kiki, you're on mute.
Thank you. So next we have Andrea, who I see now is off. She's on camera, and we have next Evelyn. You will be immediately after Andrea.
Go.
Yep. Did you take your camera off? Okay, let me put
Yes.
you on spotlight as you on. All right, go ahead. Thank you for your patience, Andrea.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Thank you for this forum today. But my question is, would you recommend that you start an investment group, being a bunch of beginners, or do you recommend that you do it individually first and then bring in, because a friend of mine was talking about starting an investment group a couple of weeks ago, and she's the one who told me about this conference tonight. Thank you.
So yes and no. And I know I'm probably being like confusing. I'm sure you guys are like, can she give me a straight answer? So investment groups or investment clubs, when you're doing it to pool money, like a pooled investment, I strongly encourage you having some legal documents in place to govern, who invested what, and if someone wants to leave, how do they leave and get their money back? I'm a huge fan of investment clubs. Even if it's not a pooled money, it's a way to have the conversation. So I'm part of 2 investment clubs where we don't pool our money, but we just talk about what we're investing in. We just talk about ideas. We just talk about our plans. So whether you call it an investment club or you call it a wealth building club, I talked about it a little bit earlier. We don't talk about money enough. We don't share our goals. We don't share ideas. We don't encourage each other, especially when it comes to money. It's just, and I don't want to generalize, but I think it is something that I would love to have us have a lot more conversations and share with each other what we're doing. So I'm a huge fan of just having that collaboration and just being able to encourage each other, share tips. Somebody might say, hey, look, Nike's cheap today, and you might want to buy it. So if you do decide to do the pooled version, make sure you have a lawyer involved and draw up some legal documents that just govern how much money everybody's putting in. And if you do decide to break it up, it's a legal fair way to then, reallocate the money back out.
Excellent question, Andrea. She's trying to start this club tonight. I am not mad at it. I am not mad at it. So we're going to move right on to Evelyn Johnson's question. And then we're going to jump right into the chat. I know that there were a lot of questions in the chat. I'm going to start getting those questions from the chat right after Ms. Johnson. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Johnson. What's your question?
Oh, thank you. This is such a wonderful presentation. So my question is, I have been a very conservative investor starting with the CDs. And this presentation really has me fired up and ready to just jump right into stocks. But is that really the path I should take, or should I really go through the steps that you mentioned regarding the corporate bonds, mutual funds, and then stocks?
No, I think it's whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm excited that you are feeling a little adventurous. And I think just start small, right? Start with, your coffee money. Start with your, play money, just to get your feet wet. And that way, as the price goes down, you're not as, it's not as shocking. It's not, if you're conservative and a CD is it's pretty safe. There's no volatility. You get exactly what is on the paper. There's no surprises. The equity market will surprise you. It will have ups and downs. It will maybe give you a little bit more gray hair. So I think if you feel a little comfortable getting your toe wet, start with a company that you really value, that you are already supporting with your dollars by buying their products. And just start from there. I don't think you have to go through a mutual fund might also be another way to do it. But I think with the online apps, it just makes the entry into the equity market a little bit easier, but just start small.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Oh, can we bring Karla back up? Oh, there we go. Hold on. Spotlight. And I love that, starting small, because this can be such an overwhelming topic. And sometimes, when we want to jump in, we want to get started. Sometimes we can get overwhelmed. And because of that overwhelm, we won't get started. So I love that advice, Karla. Starting small, start with that company that you really like. So I have a couple of questions here from the chat. So some of them have already been addressed. I see here this question came from, I'm not sure who came from, but the question is, do you assist individuals with investing? Because, you've given out a lot of information. What programs, services, resources do you have to help the people get started? Or do you have?
So definitely follow me on social media because I post a ton of tips. I don't personally help people because as my career progressed, I'm no longer licensed to give financial advice. So I want to make sure I don't go to jail and you get the best support you can. So that's why I always say, go to your bank. You bank with them. They are holding your money. Go to your bank because you'll be able to find a professional that can look at your accounts. You can sit down with them, setting up an appointment, and be able to give you some really customized approach. Because what's the one that has the ad that we're not? Well, I know there's a makeup brand like one size fits all. Your finances is not a one size fits all. There's never going to be what works for me is not going to work for Kiki. It's not going to work for Destiny. It's not going to work because we have different goals. We have different incomes. We have different aspirations. We have different risk tolerances. So definitely, I think if there's nothing else, try to make an appointment with your branch. Even you can call them and maybe do a virtual appointment and just get some customized advice from someone who probably does this on a daily basis.
All right, thank you. So you heard from Karla. Follow her on social media at Karla Hall on Instagram.
Karla A. Hall.
Karla A. Hall on Instagram. Another good question that we have here is from Maya Trope. The question is, if you're retiring in about 10 years, what would be the best investment plan?
So I'm not going to answer that because I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what investment you have. I don't know what retirement looks like for you. So it's a really hard question to answer without having all those details. So I think if you have a 401k or a retirement plan, another piece of advice is to call them. They have resources. If you have a retirement plan, they have resources that can look at your investments. They can give you advice on, whether your retirement plan is structured the right way based on your age. And they can also, you can talk to them about what retirement looks like for you and help you make your decisions on if you're prepared for that.
Absolutely.
So I think, a key thing is if you bank, if you have a retirement account, if you belong to a credit union, all of these organizations have resources that are designed to help you specifically. And I don't want people to think it is a one size fits all, because it really is. We're all unique and we all have very unique goals, and you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't get a unique plan that's perfect for you.
Oh, that's excellent advice, because sometimes, we want what we want right away. And I think that we may find ourselves in some troubles when we try to do that one size fits all situation instead of talking to a professional. So that's good advice, because I know sometimes with myself, I get impatient. All right, so we have another question. We're going to be wrapping up soon. I have another quick question. Some of these questions were already, the answers to the questions is already addressed. But another good question is someone mentioned that they wanted to get a brokerage account. Are the fees expensive for a brokerage account? Can you give a little insight on brokerage accounts?
So it depends on the institution and how much money you're investing. So, and you'll pay for, usually the fees will range. It gets more expensive if you need more customized advice. And I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. So if you're investing $1 million and you're going to have a customized, very specific plan, the fees will be higher than if you're starting with a smaller amount of money, because it is a percentage of your portfolio. Like whatever you're investing, the fee will be a percentage of that. A lot of financial institutions now have different tiers of investment support. So for example, I'm using Merrill Lynch and Bank of America just as an example because all of them have it. But like Merrill Lynch, they have like a lower tiered plan for the people who are just dabbling in it. So you're not that sophisticated. You need a little bit of hand holding, but you're investing with a smaller amount of money. So that tier will be smaller than someone who has a bigger amount of money that they're investing, that, you might need a trust set up or something else.
Okay, thank you so much. We got 2 questions, and then we're going to ask for your final thoughts as we wrap up. This question came from Laura Wharton, and the question is around picking a credit union versus a regular bank. Additionally, can you share what are some good accounts to have at several different banks versus one? Like which bank, credit union or a regular bank, and are there certain accounts that are better to have?
I don't think there are better bets to have, better accounts to have. I think, a bank and a credit union, the main difference is what they're governed by, and what they're insured by. So the banks are registered by the FDIC. Credit unions are registered, are protected by, I think it's the MCU, but there's a credit union bureau that helps protect your money. So whatever you're having checking and credit accounts up to a certain amount, it is insured. So if the bank or the credit union goes under, your money is protected. I don't really think there's a difference. I think generally credit unions will give you, thank you, the NCUA. Thank you, Ray. Generally credit unions are smaller. You get a lot more customized support. If you're trying to buy a house and you need a loan, like credit unions are usually a lot more, it's a little more accessible than a bank, which tend to be large and have a lot of bureaucracy. And it's really, I think, a personal preference. I like larger banks because I hate paying ATM fees. So I just historically like being with a larger bank because there's an ATM on every corner, but that's probably not the best way to make a decision. I think they're all kind of generally the same now. Like the thing is that the difference is the markets have become so equalized. The regulations around both have become so aligned that you're not getting one is better than the other. It's really a personal preference. My mom is part of a credit union, and when she walks in, they know her name. Whereas in a bank, you probably won't get that personalization. So I don't think there's really a huge difference. I think for the credit union, they do have a lot more programs for members than maybe banks might have. So that's something you might just want to compare and contrast based on your specific needs. And in credit unions, I think are usually limited to people that are in that specific industry. So credit union probably isn't an option for me or probably never was an option for me because of the industry I'm in. But like if you're a nurse, they have credit unions for nurses. If you're ex-military, so there's a lot of perks of being a member of that group that you can get with a credit union.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Tara Shelton. Can you explain briefly what it means to split a stock splitting?
So a stock split, and there's different reasons why a company may do it. So I won't go into that, although usually the number one reason is their stock price has gotten so high. But it's exactly what it is. So it'll be for one share, the stock price might be $100 per share. And they'll do a stock split where you now have 2 shares worth $50 each. That's probably the simplest way to explain it. Some companies, again, will do it because they feel their stock prices have gotten too high. They might do it because they want more shares in the market. It might be in preparation of something else like a buyout. So the thought process behind why there's a stock split could vary by company and each specific occurrence. But basically, they're splitting the stock in 2 for the purpose of bringing the price down.
Thank you so much. These are some really great questions.
They are.
Unfortunately, we are coming down to the wire. We are not able to take any more questions, but I will say that the replay will be available on our Facebook page, and that the soft copy of the slide deck will be sent out to everyone who's registered tonight so that you can have this information at your fingertips. Karla, this was some great information. I'm going to turn it over to you to just share your final thoughts about investing one-on-one as we come to a close. So I'm going to remove myself off the spotlight so you can share your final thoughts.
So I'll keep it brief. It was such a pleasure chatting with all of you tonight. Great questions. And I love the engagement because I'm sure, as I hope you can tell, I'm passionate about talking about this. I think the more we talk about it, the less mysterious it feels, the less scary it feels, and we can learn from each other. Some of you ask questions that I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know what the answer is, or let me dig into the crates and the cobwebs to remember. And then I even see from some of the chats, some of you helped me out, which I really appreciate. So, and I guess my final thoughts are that I hope you don't attend this workshop and then forget everything we talked about. I hope there's one thing you take from this workshop and one action you do, whether it's the person who said that they just have CDs and they might buy a stock, or someone who said they're going to make an appointment on Monday, tomorrow or next Tuesday with their bank. Please action it. Please take something and action it, because that's how you build wealth. That's how you build for your future. And let's keep the conversation going. Please share it with someone, talk to your kids, talk to your family members about it, and let's get rich together, okay?
That's going to be the story. You're on mute. You're on mute. That's going to always, we need to put that on a t-shirt. Karla, thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom with us. I appreciate you for providing easy to understand tips and strategies that we can implement right now. Family, friends, community partners, and members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, on behalf of my president, who had to leave out for another engagement, Celia Lowe Smith, on behalf of Alpha Beta Gamma Omega chapter, thank you all for spending your evening with us and for attending tonight's program. I hope you found the information shared tonight valuable and that you use it to jumpstart your investment strategy plan if you don't have one. I encourage each and every one of you here tonight to please make a personal commitment to share the information that you learned tonight with those in your circle. As Karla mentioned earlier, bring your family, friends, your significant others, your side piece, bring everybody along on this journey, and do not share, do not hold this information, keep this information to yourself. We encourage you to tag your family and friends in the program replay or repost it on your personal Facebook pages. As I mentioned earlier, the replay will be available immediately after the conclusion of this program. And we will make sure that you have the slide deck. Lastly, family and friends, Alpha Beta Gamma Omega wants to hear from you. Please complete the program questionnaire. Source, if we can bring up that slide deck with the QR code. We want to hear your thoughts about tonight's program. And we want to know specifically, what are the topics you're interested in? Go ahead and scan the QR code that's on the screen. Source, if you can drop the link to the questionnaire in Facebook and in the Zoom chat. We want to hear from you to make sure that we're continuously providing programs that are of interest to you, that meet the needs of our community. Thank you again so much. We hope that, again, you enjoyed this program. I want to say thank you to Alpha Beta Gamma Omega's technology team and the ambassadors. Thank you all so much for making tonight's program seamless with our technology. Good night, everyone. We'll stick around for a few minutes. Follow us on social media to stay connected with us. Thank you all for attending. Good night and God bless. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording right now.